The massive space station hung in the darkness like a metal moon. Its twisted spires and glowing towers stretched for miles in every direction. This was the Nexus Command, home to the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The Zephyrian Council ruled from here, watching over thousands of worlds and billions of creatures. Inside the Great Hall, 12 different alien species sat around a circular table made of pure crystal. Each species looked different from the others. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed with their own inner light. But they all shared one thing in common. They believed they were the masters of the galaxy. At the head of the table sat Vexithera, the council leader. Her blue skin shimmered in the soft light, and her forearms moved gracefully as she spoke. Her people, the Zephyrians, had built this empire over 10,000 years. They were proud of their achievement and would not let anyone challenge their power. "We have a problem," Vexithera announced, her voice echoing through the chamber. "A new species has appeared on our sensors. They call themselves humans, and they come from a small planet called Earth." The other council members shifted in their seats. New species were discovered all the time, but most were still using simple tools or had just learned to make fire. It was rare for any species to reach space travel without the council knowing about it first. General Corax, a reptilian creature with sharp teeth and yellow eyes, leaned forward. "What is their technology level? Are they still fighting with metal sticks and throwing rocks?" Vexthara's expression grew serious. "No. Our scouts report that they have developed faster than light travel. They have begun exploring their local star systems and have built ships that can travel between planets." A wave of surprised murmurs swept through the chamber. This was indeed unusual. Most species took millions of years to develop such technology. The council had always been there to guide them or stop them if they became dangerous. "How is this possible?" asked Thisara, a floating jellyfish-like being whose tentacles glowed with bioluminescent patterns. "We monitor all developing worlds. How did we miss them?" "Their planet is in the outer rim of the galaxy," Vexithara explained. "It's in a region we considered too unimportant to watch closely. The area has few resources and is far from major trade routes. We never thought anything interesting would come from there." Elder Zach Mora, the oldest member of the council, spoke in his ancient, gravelly voice. "Perhaps we should make contact with them. Invite them to join our great civilization. Most young species are eager to learn from their betters." "That was my first thought as well," Vexthara replied. "But there is a problem. These humans are difficult. They don't seem to understand their place in the natural order of things." She activated a holographic display in the center of the table. Images appeared showing human cities, ships, and technology. The council members studied the images with interest. "Look at their planet," Vexthara continued. "They have divided it into hundreds of separate groups called nations. These nations fight constantly with each other. They can't even unite their own world, yet they dare to reach for the stars." General Corax snorted with amusement. "Typical primitive behavior. They will learn to respect authority once they meet their superiors." "That's what concerns me," Vexthara said. "We sent a diplomatic message to their planet 3 cycles ago. We explained that they must stop their space exploration until they receive permission from the council. We offered to guide their development in exchange for their obedience." "And what was their response?" asked Thisara. Vexithara's forearms tensed with anger. "They ignored us completely. Not only did they refuse to stop their space program, but they actually increased it. They have launched more ships and are exploring further from their home system." The chamber fell silent. In 10,000 years of council rule, no species had ever ignored their first diplomatic contact. Most were so amazed to learn they weren't alone in the universe that they immediately accepted council guidance. "Perhaps they didn't understand the message," suggested Elder Zach Mora. "Their technology might not be advanced enough to properly receive our communications." "We sent the message in over 100 different languages and formats," Vexithera replied. "We even sent it in simple mathematical concepts that any spacefaring species should understand. They received it. They understood it. They chose to ignore it." General Corax slammed his clawed fist on the crystal table. "This is unacceptable. No primitive species has the right to defy the council. We must show them the consequences of their arrogance." Many of the other council members nodded in agreement. They had spent thousands of years maintaining order in the galaxy. They couldn't allow one small planet to challenge their authority. "What do you recommend, General?" Vexithara asked. Corax stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow across the table. We send the fleet. A show of force will make them understand reality. When they see 200 of our warships in their sky, they will quickly learn to respect the Council. Is such a large force really necessary? Asked Thaisara. They are just one planet with primitive technology. Better to use overwhelming force and end this quickly, Corax replied. If we appear weak, other species might get ideas about defying us as well. We must make an example of these humans. Vexithera considered this carefully. The general was right about the need to maintain their reputation. The Council's power came not just from their technology and numbers, but from the belief that they were invincible. If one small planet could defy them without consequences, others might try the same thing. Very well, she decided.
General Corax, you will take the Second Fleet to this Earth. You will demonstrate our power and force them to submit to Council authority.
But remember, we want them to surrender, not be destroyed. They may prove useful once they learn their place. Corax grinned, showing his sharp teeth. Of course, Council Leader. This will be a simple police action. These humans will see our ships and immediately surrender. Most primitive species do exactly that when they realize how outmatched they are. How long do you estimate the mission will take? Asked Elder Zakmora. No more than a few standard cycles, Corax replied confidently. We'll jump into their system, show them our fleet, and they'll surrender before we even need to fire a shot. These humans may think they're brave, but they've never seen real galactic power before. The other Council members seemed satisfied with this plan. It was simple, direct, and had worked hundreds of times before with other defiant species. Prepare the fleet immediately, Vexithara ordered. I want this matter resolved quickly so we can return to more important concerns. As the Council meeting ended, the members began to disperse back to their various duties. None of them seemed particularly worried about the upcoming confrontation. After all, what could one primitive planet do against the might of the Zephyrian Council? General Corax remained behind to discuss details with Vexithara. I'll take our best ships and most experienced crews, he said. The humans will surrender so quickly they won't even have time to be afraid. Vexithara nodded approvingly. Just remember to be careful with their planet. Once they submit, we'll need to study their technology and culture. It's unusual for a species to develop so quickly. They might have something we can use. Understood, Corax replied. This will be the easiest military operation in Council history. Neither of them realized how wrong they were about to be. Deep beneath the frozen wasteland of Antarctica, Admiral Sarah Chen walked through corridors that didn't officially exist. The ice above her head was 3 miles thick, but down here in the depths the air was warm and filled with the quiet hum of advanced machinery. This was Project Prometheus, humanity's most closely guarded secret. The message from the aliens had arrived 3 days ago, and Sarah still felt angry every time she thought about it. The arrogance of these creatures was incredible. They expected humanity to simply stop exploring space and wait for permission like obedient children. Admiral, we've received another transmission from the alien fleet, reported Lieutenant Commander Torres as she approached. They're still demanding our complete surrender. Sarah nodded grimly. Any change in their position? No, ma'am. Our deep space sensors show they're holding position near Jupiter. 200 ships, just like our intelligence predicted. Sarah had been expecting this day for over 20 years. Back when she was just a young officer, humanity had detected strange signals from deep space. Signals that suggested they weren't alone in the universe. Instead of announcing this discovery to the world, a small group of military leaders and scientists had made a different choice. They decided to prepare for the worst. The elevator descended even deeper into the facility, passing through multiple security checkpoints. Each level required different clearances, and only a handful of people on Earth knew about the deepest levels. Sarah was one of them. Status report, Doctor, Sarah said as she entered the main laboratory. Dr. Marcus Webb looked up from his computer screens, his eyes red from lack of sleep. We're ready. Admiral, he replied, though he looked anything but confident. The Resonance Cascade network is fully operational. All 7 installations are online and synchronized. Sarah studied the massive displays showing the locations of the hidden facilities. Besides this one in Antarctica, there were installations buried under the lunar surface, hidden in the Martian polar ice caps, and concealed in asteroids throughout the inner solar system. Each one had taken years to build in complete secrecy. Remind me how this works, Sarah said. She understood the basic concept, but the science was far beyond her expertise. Dr. Webb activated a holographic display showing the quantum field generators. We've discovered that all matter in the universe is connected through quantum entanglement at the subatomic level. By manipulating these connections, we can cause the molecular bonds in any object to destabilize instantly. And this will work against alien ships? It should work against any matter-based technology, Webb replied. The quantum fields don't care what the target is made of. Metal, ceramic, biological tissue. If it's made of atoms, we can disrupt it. Sarah felt a chill despite the warm air in the laboratory. The weapon they had created was terrifying in its scope. It could destroy anything within a light-year radius in seconds. The only reason they had built it was because they feared what might be coming from the stars. The power requirements are enormous, Webb continued. We can only fire it once before the reactors need to be completely rebuilt. After that, we'll be defenseless. Then we better make sure we don't miss, Sarah said grimly. The development of Project Prometheus had required the cooperation of every major nation on Earth, though most governments didn't know the full truth. They thought they were funding advanced space exploration technology. Only a few dozen people knew they were actually building a weapon capable of destroying entire fleets. Admiral, there's something else you should know, Dr. Webb said quietly. The quantum resonance field will be visible from light years away when we activate it. Every advanced civilization in the galaxy will know what we've done within hours. Sarah understood the implications immediately. So this isn't just about defeating one fleet. We're announcing to the entire galaxy that Earth has weapons they've never seen before. Exactly. We'll either scare them away completely, or every hostile species in the galaxy will consider us a threat that needs to be eliminated immediately. It was a huge gamble. But Sarah had been part of the planning committee that made this decision years ago. Humanity had studied what little information they could gather about galactic civilizations, and the picture wasn't encouraging. Most seemed to follow a pattern where older, more established species controlled younger ones. Earth would never be allowed to develop freely if they followed the traditional path. How long until the alien fleet reaches Earth? Sarah asked. Our deep space monitoring stations estimate 6 hours until they enter our outer system, Lieutenant Commander Torres reported. They're moving faster than we initially calculated. Sarah walked to the observation deck overlooking the main quantum chamber. The device that would determine humanity's fate was surprisingly small. Just a metallic sphere about the size of a basketball, suspended in the center of a complex array of field generators and power conduits. Has there been any response to our warning message? She asked. None, Admiral. We told them to leave our system or face the consequences, but they haven't even acknowledged receiving it. Sarah wasn't surprised. The aliens clearly thought they were dealing with primitives who were trying to bluff their way out of an impossible situation. They had no idea that humanity had spent decades preparing for exactly this scenario. The communication console chimed with an incoming message. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They're demanding to speak with our planetary leadership. Put it through, Sarah ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the image of a reptilian creature with yellow eyes and sharp teeth. His voice was translated by the computer systems, though the arrogance in his tone needed no translation. I am General Corax of the Zephyrian Council, the alien announced. You have ignored our lawful commands and continued your illegal space exploration. This ends now. You will immediately surrender all your spacecraft and submit to Council authority. Refuse and we will take your planet by force. Sarah stepped forward to respond. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. You are not welcome in our solar system. Leave immediately or face the consequences. The alien general actually laughed. You dare threaten us? We have 200 warships and 50,000 warriors. Your entire planet couldn't build enough weapons to challenge even one of our vessels. You have been warned, Sarah replied calmly. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing from our system. Your threats are meaningless, Corax snarled. We will be in orbit around your world within hours. Prepare for occupation. The transmission ended and the laboratory fell silent except for the hum of machinery. Everyone was looking at Sarah, waiting for her decision. She thought about the billions of people living on Earth who had no idea their fate was about to be decided in the next few minutes. Dr. Webb, begin the final activation sequence, she ordered. Admiral, are you sure? Once we fire this weapon, there's no going back. The entire galaxy will know what we've done. Sarah looked at the tactical display showing the approaching alien fleet. 200 ships filled with creatures who saw humanity as nothing more than rebellious children who needed to be punished. They made their choice when they refused to leave, she said firmly. Now we make ours. Initialize the resonance cascade network. Alarms began sounding throughout the facility as the massive quantum generators powered up for the first and only time they would ever be used. The Zephyrian war fleet dropped out of hyperspace in a display that had terrified countless civilizations across the galaxy. 200 massive ships materialized near Jupiter, their hulls gleaming in the pale sunlight. Each vessel was over a mile long, bristling with weapons that could crack planets apart. General Corax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, and smiled with satisfaction. The ship was his pride and joy, a massive dreadnought that had conquered 17 star systems without ever taking serious damage. Its weapons could destroy a moon, and its shields could withstand the explosion of a small star. Impressive, isn't it? He said to his second-in-command, Captain Vextar. No primitive species has ever seen this much firepower in one place. Captain Vextar studied the tactical displays showing the human solar system. Their technology is more advanced than our initial report suggested, General. They have detection stations throughout their system, and some of their ships are using power sources we don't immediately recognize. Corax waved dismissively. All species have a few clever tricks. It means nothing against overwhelming force. How many ships do they have? Approximately 50 vessels, sir. Most appear to be exploration craft or cargo haulers. We detect perhaps a dozen that might be military ships, though they're much smaller than our fighters. 50 ships against 200, Corax laughed. And their largest vessel is smaller than our shuttlecraft. This will be even easier than I thought. The human ships were indeed small compared to the Zephyrian fleet. Earth's technology had focused on efficiency and speed rather than building massive battleships. Humanity had learned to do more with less, but Corax saw this as a sign of primitive engineering. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the third planet, reported the communications officer. They're asking us to identify ourselves and state our intentions. Put them through, Corax ordered. Let's get this over with quickly. The main screen flickered to life, showing the image of a human woman in military uniform. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, and her eyes held a coldness that surprised Corax. Most primitive species looked terrified when they first saw a Zephyrian fleet. This is Admiral Sarah, Chen of the United Earth Defense Force, the human said. You are in violation of our territorial space. Identify yourselves and explain your presence here. Corax was amused by her tone. I am General Corax of the Zephyrian Council. We are here to bring order to this system. Your species has been developing space technology without proper authorization. This ends today. Authorization from whom? Admiral Chen asked. We don't recognize any authority beyond our own government. Then you are ignorant of galactic law, Corax replied. The Zephyrian Council has maintained order in this galaxy for 10,000 years. All species must receive permission before developing advanced technology. You have violated this law and must face the consequences. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. We received your earlier message demanding our surrender. Our response remains the same. We reject your authority and order you to leave our system immediately. Corax couldn't believe what he was hearing. You reject our authority. Look around you, human. We have 200 warships. Your entire planet couldn't build enough weapons to threaten even one of our vessels. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing from our system, Admiral Chen said calmly. This is your final warning. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion erupted in laughter. Corax's officers couldn't believe the audacity of this primitive species. Captain Vextar was the first to speak. General, perhaps they don't understand the situation. Should we demonstrate our weapons on one of their outer planets? Not yet, Corax replied, still chuckling. I want to see how far they'll push this bluff. He turned back to the communication screen. Admiral Chen, you seem to be under the impression that you have some kind of choice in this matter. Let me clarify the situation for you. We have 50,000 warriors and weapons that can destroy your entire civilization. You have nothing that can threaten us. You have been warned, Admiral Chen replied. You have 15 seconds to begin your withdrawal. Corax's amusement was beginning to turn to irritation. Are you seriously trying to give us an ultimatum? Your largest ship couldn't damage our smallest fighter. What exactly do you think you're going to do to us? The tactical officer interrupted their conversation. General, Our sensors are detecting unusual energy readings from multiple locations in this system. The humans appear to have installations on their moon on the fourth planet and in several asteroid locations. Of course they do, Korax said dismissively. They're probably mining operations or research stations. Nothing that could threaten a Zephyrian battle fleet. Sir, the energy readings are increasing rapidly, the tactical officer reported. Whatever they're powering up, it's using more energy than their entire planet normally consumes. Korax frowned. That did sound unusual, but he refused to believe that any primitive species could pose a real threat to his fleet. Probably some kind of planetary defense system. Our shields can handle anything they might have. Admiral Chen's voice came through the speakers again. 10 seconds, General Korax. This is your last chance to avoid what's coming. What's coming? Korax laughed. What could you possibly do to us? Show us your most powerful weapon, human. Let's see what passes for advanced technology on your backwards planet. The bridge crew continued to monitor their displays, watching the human ships maintain their positions. None of them were moving to attack, which made the situation even more puzzling. How could they threaten the fleet without moving their ships into position? 5 seconds, Admiral Chen announced. This is ridiculous, Captain Vextar said. They're obviously bluffing. No species develops weapons capable of threatening a council fleet without us knowing about it. 3 seconds, came the human voice. Korax was getting tired of this game. Human Admiral, your time is up. Since you refuse to surrender, we will now demonstrate why the Zephyrian Council is feared throughout the galaxy. 2 seconds. All ships, prepare to fire warning shots across their planet's major cities, Korax ordered. Let's show them what real power looks like. 1 second. The tactical officer suddenly looked up from his console with alarm. General, the energy readings are off the scale. Whatever they're doing, it's time's up, Admiral Chen said quietly. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The Zephyrian fleet continued on its course toward Earth, weapons charging for their demonstration of superior firepower. Korax was about to order the attack when something impossible began to occur. The hull of the Eternal Dominion started to shimmer. At first it looked like heat distortion, but then pieces of the ship began to simply disappear. Not destroyed by weapons fire, not blown apart by explosions. They just ceased to exist at the molecular level. What's happening? Korax shouted. Report. Sir, our hull is destabilizing at the atomic level. The tactical officer screamed. The molecular bonds are breaking down throughout the ship. Alarms began blaring as atmosphere started venting into space through holes that appeared in the hull without any apparent cause. Korax looked at his displays and saw the same thing happening to every ship in his fleet. This is impossible. Captain Vexistar gasped as part of the bridge ceiling simply vanished above them. No weapon can do this. Korax tried to contact his other ships, but most of them were already too damaged to respond. The few that could still communicate were reporting the same impossible situation. Their ships were dissolving around them. How are they doing this? Korax demanded, though he was beginning to realize that no one had answers. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen one last time. We tried to warn you, General. You should have listened. The transmission cut off just as the bridge of the Eternal Dominion began to come apart around them. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. The 7 installations of the Resonance Cascade Network had fired simultaneously, sending quantum entanglement fields racing outward at impossible speeds toward their targets. Quantum field deployment successful, Dr. Webb reported, his voice tight with stress. All alien vessels are within the disruption zone. Sarah could see the results on her screens. Each of the 200 alien ships was outlined in red as the quantum fields locked onto their molecular signatures. The computer had analyzed the composition of their hulls and was now systematically destroying the atomic bonds that held them together. Time to complete dissolution? Sarah asked. 4 minutes and 7 seconds, Dr. Webb replied. The larger ships will take slightly longer due to their mass, but none of them will survive the process. On the main display, Sarah could see what was happening to the alien fleet. It was unlike any battle in human history. There were no explosions, no weapons fire, no dramatic dogfights between opposing forces. The enemy ships were simply ceasing to exist atom by atom. The process started slowly. The outer hulls of the alien vessels began to shimmer as their molecular structure became unstable. What looked like heat distortion quickly became something far more serious as pieces of the ship started to vanish completely. My God, whispered Lieutenant Commander Torres. Look at their flagship. The massive dreadnought that had led the alien fleet was coming apart in a way that defied physics. Entire sections of the ship were disappearing without leaving any debris behind. The metal and composite materials that had been forged in alien factories were returning to their component atoms, which immediately dispersed into space. Are we receiving any transmissions from them? Sarah asked. Several ships are broadcasting emergency signals, the communications officer reported. Most are just panic calls, but we're getting some coherent messages. Put the clearest one through. The speakers crackled to life with an alien voice, translated by the computer systems. The tone was pure terror. This is Captain Zalthek of the Stellar Conquest. Our ship is disintegrating around us. How are you doing this? This technology doesn't exist. Sarah felt no satisfaction in the alien's fear, but she couldn't afford to show mercy now. Humanity had made its choice, and there was no going back. Another transmission came through, this one from a different ship. Command vessel, please respond. Our life support systems are failing. The hull is gone in sections 7 through 12. Admiral, Dr. Webb said quietly, some of the crew pods are ejecting from the alien ships. They're trying to escape in lifeboats and personal craft. Sarah considered this development. Can the quantum field affect the smaller vessels? The field is designed to target specific molecular compositions, Webb explained. The escape pods might be made of different materials. Some of them could survive. Let them go, Sarah decided. We want survivors to carry word back to their people about what happened here. The destruction of the alien fleet was proceeding exactly as the computer models had predicted. The quantum resonance technology was working beyond their wildest hopes. But Sarah felt no joy in watching 50,000 beings die. This was necessary for humanity's survival, but that didn't make it easier to witness. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship, reported the communications officer. It's from their general. Put it through. General Corax's voice came through the speakers, though it was distorted by the destruction happening around him. Human Admiral, how did you... This is impossible. No species has this technology. We tried to warn you, General, Sarah replied. You chose not to listen. But 10,000 years, the Council has ruled. How can primitives... The transmission cut off abruptly as the alien flagship's communication systems failed. On the tactical display, Sarah could see that the massive dreadnought was now more empty space than solid matter. 2 minutes remaining until complete fleet dissolution, Dr. Webb announced. Sarah watched the smaller alien ships trying desperately to escape the quantum field, but there was nowhere to run. The field extended for light years in every direction, moving at speeds that made escape impossible. Even their fastest ships couldn't outrun something that traveled instantaneously across space. Admiral, some of the alien vessels are trying to fire their weapons, Torres reported. They're targeting our orbital installations. Are our facilities in danger? No, ma'am. Most of their ships have lost so much structural integrity that their weapon systems are non-functional. The few shots they've managed to fire are going wide. It was a futile gesture anyway. The quantum resonance generators were buried deep underground or hidden in shielded facilities. Even if the aliens could target them accurately, their weapons couldn't penetrate the defenses that humanity had spent decades building. 1 minute remaining, Dr. Webb announced. The alien fleet was now barely recognizable. Where once there had been 200 massive warships, there were now just scattered clouds of expanding gas and a few intact escape pods drifting helplessly in space. Sarah opened a communication channel to the surviving escape pods. Attention alien survivors. This is Admiral Sarah Chen. You have witnessed the consequences of threatening Earth. Return to your people and tell them what you have seen here today. A weak transmission came back from one of the pods. How did you develop this technology so quickly? Our scouts said you were primitive. Your scouts underestimated us, Sarah replied. Humanity has been preparing for this day longer than you realize. Take this message back to your council. Earth claims the right to develop as we choose. Any future threats against our people will be met with the same response. But the Galactic Order, the laws that have existed for millennia, your laws don't apply to us, Sarah said firmly. We never agreed to be ruled by the Zephyrian Council or anyone else. Humanity makes its own destiny. 30 seconds, Dr. Webb called out. The last of the alien ships were now little more than glowing clouds of dispersed atoms. The massive fleet that had seemed so threatening just minutes before was gone, leaving only a few dozen escape pods as evidence that it had ever existed. Fleet dissolution complete, Dr. Webb announced. All primary targets have been eliminated. The quantum field generators began powering down, their job finished. The enormous amount of energy required for the attack had drained the reactors of all 7 installations. As Dr. Webb had warned, the system could only be used once. Casualties? Sarah asked. 0 human casualties, Torres reported. All our installations report normal status. The alien fleet has been completely destroyed with approximately 300 survivors in escape pods. Sarah nodded grimly. 300 survivors out of 50,000. It was a devastating defeat that would send shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Every civilization within 100 light years would soon know that Earth possessed weapons beyond their understanding. Dr. Webb, begin the shutdown sequence for all installations, she ordered. We need to start rebuilding our defenses immediately. Admiral, the quantum resonance will be detectable across half the galaxy, Webb warned. Every advanced civilization will know what we've done within hours. Good, Sarah replied. Let them know. Let them all know that humanity is not to be underestimated. As the last readings came in from the battle zone, Sarah realized that everything had changed. In less than 5 minutes, Earth had announced itself to the galaxy as a power to be reckoned with. The consequences of that announcement would reshape galactic politics for generations to come. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the largest gathering of alien species in recorded galactic history. The Unity Hall had been constructed in just 4 months, a massive dome of glass and steel rising from the plains of Central Australia. Representatives from 47 different civilizations sat in carefully arranged sections, each group maintaining the environmental conditions their species required. Sarah had been promoted to the newly created position of Earth's Galactic Ambassador, though she still preferred her military title. The weight of representing humanity to the entire galaxy was something she was still learning to handle. Honored representatives, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall's advanced translation systems. 6 months ago, most of your civilizations had never heard of humanity. Today you're here because you want to understand what happened in our solar system. The alien delegates shifted nervously in their seats. Some were clearly uncomfortable being on Earth, while others seemed fascinated by everything around them. All of them shared one thing in common. They were afraid of what humanity might do next. In the front row sat Ambassador Thysaura, the jellyfish-like being who had once been part of the Zephyrian Council. She was one of the few surviving council members, and her presence here represented a dramatic shift in galactic politics. The destruction of the Zephyrian fleet has created what your military analysts call a power vacuum, Sarah continued. The council that ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years is gone. Their remaining forces have retreated to their core worlds and show no interest in maintaining their empire. This was an understatement. The complete annihilation of their most powerful fleet had shattered Zephyrian confidence. The survivors who had witnessed the battle spoke of weapons that violated the known laws of physics. Within weeks, dozens of species that had been under council control declared their independence. Many of you have come here asking the same questions, Sarah said. Will Earth take the Council's place? Will we impose our own rule over the galaxy? Will we use our weapons to force other species to obey us? She paused, letting the tension build in the hall. These beings had lived under the authority of stronger species for thousands of years. They couldn't imagine a galaxy without some kind of central authority. The answer is no, Sarah announced. Humanity has no interest in ruling over other species. We believe that every civilization has the right to develop according to its own nature and values. A murmur of surprise rippled through the audience. This was not what they had expected to hear from the species that had just demonstrated the most devastating military technology in galactic history. Ambassador, Thysaura's tentacles flickered with bioluminescent patterns as she spoke. Ambassador Chen, if I may ask, why did humanity develop such terrible weapons if not to conquer others? We developed them to defend ourselves, Sarah replied honestly. Our analysis of galactic politics showed us that young species were typically enslaved or destroyed by older civilizations. We chose to prepare for that possibility rather than hope for mercy. But surely you understand that your actions have destabilized the entire galactic order, protested Ambassador Krentor. a insect-like being whose species had been allied with the Council. Without central authority, there will be chaos and warfare. Sarah had expected this argument. The old order was built on fear and oppression. If it was truly stable, then one battle shouldn't have been enough to destroy it. Perhaps it's time for a better system. What kind of system? Asked Ambassador Zalketh, whose people had been among the first to declare independence after the Council's defeat. How do you propose to maintain peace without central authority? Through cooperation rather than domination, Sarah explained. Humanity proposes the creation of a galactic federation, a voluntary association of species working together for mutual benefit. No single species would have authority over the others. The reaction to this proposal was immediate and dramatic. Some delegates were intrigued by the concept, while others seemed horrified by the idea of equality between species. This is impossible, declared Ambassador Voxhara, whose species had been middle-level administrators in the Council hierarchy. Advanced species must guide primitive ones. Without proper authority, the younger civilizations will destroy themselves. With respect, Ambassador, Sarah replied, that attitude is exactly what led to the Council's downfall. Every species in this hall has something valuable to contribute. The Zephyrians forgot that lesson when they assumed they were superior to everyone else. She activated a holographic display showing the proposed Federation structure. Under this system, each member species would have an equal vote in Federation decisions. Advanced civilizations would share their knowledge freely, while younger species would contribute their own unique perspectives and innovations. And if species refuse to join this federation? Asked Ambassador Thisara. Will you force them to participate? Absolutely not, Sarah said firmly. Membership would be completely voluntary. Species that prefer isolation or want to maintain their own political systems are free to do so. The Federation would only intervene to prevent one species from attacking or enslaving another. You're asking us to abandon thousands of years of tradition, protested Ambassador Krentor. The strong have always ruled the weak. It's the natural order of the universe. Sarah's expression hardened. The natural order of the universe is what you make of it. Humanity chose to reject the idea that might makes right. We suggest you consider doing the same. The discussion continued for hours, with various delegates raising concerns and objections. Some worried about economic disruption, others about the loss of their privileged positions in the old hierarchy. But gradually a consensus began to emerge. What guarantees do we have that humanity won't change its mind? Asked Ambassador Zalketh. You possess weapons that could destroy any of our civilizations. How do we know you won't eventually use that power to control us? This was the question Sarah had been waiting for. You have our word, but more importantly, you have our actions. We could have demanded tribute from every species in the galaxy after demonstrating our capabilities. Instead, we're offering to share our non-military technology freely with Federation members. She gestured to another display showing Earth's recent technological developments. We've already begun sharing our medical advances, agricultural techniques, and energy technologies with species that have requested them. Knowledge shared freely benefits everyone. But what about your military technology? Pressed Ambassador Thisara. Surely you won't share weapons that could threaten Earth itself. Our quantum resonance technology will remain classified, Sarah admitted. But we're willing to share defensive technologies and work together on mutual security concerns. The negotiations continued for 3 more days. Species after species agreed to join the proposed federation, though some requested modifications to the charter. The insect-like Krentorians insisted on maintaining their hive-mind social structure. The energy beings known as the Luxara required special provisions for their unique physiology. By the end of the week, 31 species had agreed to form the core of the Galactic Federation. Others indicated they would consider joining later, while a few chose to remain independent observers. This experiment may fail, Admiral Chen announced during the closing ceremony. Building a truly cooperative galactic civilization won't be easy. There will be disagreements, conflicts, and setbacks. But the alternative is returning to the old system where the strong prey upon the weak. Humanity has shown that even the mightiest empire can fall when faced with determined resistance. We hope the galaxy has learned that lesson. As the alien delegates prepared to return to their homeworlds, many approached Sarah privately. Some offered thanks for ending the Council's oppression, while others expressed lingering concerns about humanity's intentions. Ambassador Thisara, was among the last to leave. "Your species is very unusual, Admiral Chen," she said through her translator. "Most civilizations that develop such power become corrupted by it. I hope humans prove to be different." "So do we," Sarah replied honestly. "That's why we're sharing the responsibility with all of you. No single species should have the power to determine the fate of others." As the last of the delegates departed, Sarah stood alone in the empty Unity Hall. Through the transparent dome, she could see the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, the news of Earth's proposals was spreading across the galaxy at faster than light speeds. Some species would embrace the new order, while others would resist it. There would be challenges and threats that humanity couldn't yet imagine. But for the first time in galactic history, a young species had chosen cooperation over conquest. The 4-minute war that had destroyed the Zephyrian fleet was already becoming legend. But Sarah hoped that history would remember what came after the battle as even more important. Humanity hadn't just proven they could destroy their enemies. They had shown they could build something better to replace what they had torn down. The age of galactic empires was ending. The age of galactic cooperation was about to begin.